A record-setting late September migrant surge is underway at the U.S. southern border, with as many as 10,000 reported daily crossings. The migrants are part of an unbroken chain, stretching all the way back to South America. The impact of thousands of people making the trek north is taking a huge toll on the communities they pass through. Chuck Holton brings us a story from the Darien Gap.
What was once one of the most remote and pristine jungles on planet Earth is now an environmental disaster. Trash litters the banks of the river locals once depended on for their water. Now the bitter irony is that in a place which gets a dozen feet of rain each year, these indigenous tribes have to import bottled water.
So it's about 8 o'clock in the morning on the Rio Turquesa going into the Darien Gap, and we're starting to pass dozens and dozens of these boats coming out completely full of migrants. You see all these migrants here behind me. They're from all over the world, and they're all headed out to the river end where the road is. The problem is there are not enough boats to get them out of here and get them down to the road where they can continue their journey to the United States.
3 hours upriver, we come to the last village before reaching the Colombian border. The scene is apocalyptic. Thousands of migrants arrive each day, more than 6 times the village's original population. There's nowhere to sleep and no adequate facilities for the crush of humanity dragging in after 6 days in the jungle. People line up to register for the boat ride out, standing for hours under the merciless sun. Although many suffer from heat stroke, the tiny clinic has almost nothing to offer.
Yeah, we're here 5 minutes and there's people passing out left and right. The sun came out, it's super hot. They don't have many resources here to help. That's really what they need. They need resources. These guys, they need volunteers, they need supplies. With thousands of people coming in here every day, there's just no way that they can take care of all the people that are coming in with needs, because by this time they've already been walking through the jungle for 5 or 6 days. And so they get here, they're all half dead. Some of them are mostly dead. And like this one right here, just dehydrated, passed out in the sun, and they really need time to recover before they continue their journey.
And many are dying in the jungle.
People who was passing the river, they could just see the dead bodies in front of them. And me and my friends, we just go and we just covered them with some plastics because we didn't want some wild animals to eat them or something. And also there were some children and also some families, they were passing from that path. We didn't want them to see the dead bodies. And it was extremely, extremely dangerous way.
Now, the tribe has reached a breaking point. They've decided to build a separate camp for the migrants across the river, one that will hold up to 15,000 people.
We've decided that it has to be a shelter away from the community, which should give migrants their own place for food and shelter, as this has affected every aspect of our lives, including social, economic, cultural, and even education.
Right now, they are defecating in the same streets where they are sleeping. Nobody wants that. We want everything to be well organized and in order, so that the migrants feel better when they come to the community.
This year, the number of people traversing the gap en route to the United States has exceeded 350,000, which is already 100,000 more than 2022. And despite the toll in human misery, the numbers just keep rising.
Chuck Holton has returned from the Darien Gap. He joins us from our Virginia Beach newsroom. Chuck, the human misery these migrants have endured on their way through the Darien Gap is unbelievable, and I'm sure it was heart-wrenching for you, witnessing their suffering, knowing there wasn't much you could do about it. So tell us how you felt as you produced this story.
Yeah, it's hard not to get angry, Gary, because when you see how many people are coming through the Darien Gap, that now up to 3,000 or 4,000 people every day just coming through the Darien Gap. So these are not the people that are, all the people who are coming through the U.S. southern border. They're just joining the flow to the U.S. southern border. And that means that that number on the U.S. southern border will likely grow. But it makes you angry because they are bringing their children through this unbelievably dangerous trek across the jungle, some of the most extreme topography on the planet. The day before we got there, there was a landslide because it's rainy season there now, and 50 people were killed in there. So they're losing dozens of people every day, without a doubt, coming through the gap. People dying of exposure, of heat stroke, of even hunger in there because they get lost and they can't find their way out. So all of this because of the pull factor of the United States. The vast majority of these people are not leaving a country that is persecuting them. They're leaving Colombia. And most of them have been in Colombia for months or even years, working, making a living, doing just fine. And they're only deciding to come north now because they're hearing that the U.S. southern border is wide open.
Well, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, blames the Venezuelan migrant surge on Senator Marco Rubio and the sanctions that he sponsored against the Venezuelan government. So I'm sure Venezuelan migrants that you've talked to disagree with that. What reason are they giving you for leaving their country and heading to the U.S.?
Well, they're leaving their country because they're having to eat their pets to survive, and the crime rate is the only thing that's growing inside Venezuela at this point from an economic standpoint. And they certainly would not agree with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. As a matter of fact, I've interviewed many of them who've come almost crawling out of the jungle, their feet eaten up with jungle rot. And the one thing I like to ask them is, was it worth it? And every one of them says, absolutely, it was worth it to get out of Venezuela, to get away from socialism. And I say, well, you may be going into a country that's embracing socialism if certain political parties have their way. And they say, please tell people in America that's not what they want. We just came from that. Take it from us. Socialism is not the way to go.
Now, Chuck, you've been reporting this border problem for years. So what do we do about it?
It is absolutely possible to secure the southern border and to stop this flow of migration. President Trump did it. It was down to just a trickle under Title 42 and the Remain in Mexico policy. People stopped coming, and we could very well do it. We did it during COVID, and Panama did it during COVID. All they'd have to do is just take away that pull factor, the pull factor that causes them to leave other safe countries or to travel through other safe countries to get to the United States has more to do with the free stuff that they can get by coming here.
Okay, Chuck Holton, excellent work, my friend. You helped us feel that we were right there with you and the migrants. May God help them and us, and God bless you. Thank you.